doubts from what we covered in the previous sessions? Anything from there? No? Okay. So the next thing that we'll talk about is web application security and hacking web applications and websites. That's our next topic. So there is this organization known as OWASP, OWASP. So they release a list of top 10 vulnerabilities in web applications, and they do this from time to time. So the last list that they came out with was made in 2017. After that, there has been no new lists. So I'm going to be sharing a the screen. Is this visible to you guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So this is the organization OWASP. It stands for Open Web Application Security Project. So they come out with this list every few years. So they sit down, they assess all the different vulnerabilities that are present in websites whenever we are doing that, and then they make this list, and it's also sort of a ranking of web application security risks. So they come out with this list of top 10, and this list is from 2017, which is the current version. They don't really have, I mean, they haven't really come up with another list after that. So these are the top 10 risks as of the latest list. So the first one is injection, like SQL injection, NoSQL injection, OS injection, LDAP injection. So this is when you are sending some kind of malicious queries, some kind of malicious scripts as an input to your application. And if that web application executes this malicious input, then that is said to be an injection vulnerability, that you can inject your malicious code
So this
into the web application.
numbering stands for the ranking.
Yeah, this
That
is
means injection is still at the top.
yes,
It is number one attacks on the website.
yeah, at least as of 2017. Now when they update it, probably by next year, I think they will come up with an updated list.
Because
So
in 2013,
hmm,
uh, as far as I know, our organization has conducted this OWASP test on our website. So at that time also injection was at top.
yeah, because injection is one of the things that is overlooked. You need to, when you are developing a website, when you are creating your website, when you are making all the input fields, and you are handling all the logic that accepts input and processes that, you need to look at it from every angle to ensure that whatever data you're asking from the user, whatever input you're asking from the user, that should be properly sanitized, properly validated before it is sent for processing. So that is let's say you have one kind of injection lockdown, that you know SQL injection, you have locked it down, but there might be other kinds of injection possible on your application depending on what technology you are using. So basically, these are the top 10
Set of
risks.
arbitrary inputs. Hello.
Yes. Arbitrary inputs. Yes. Whatever input you take.
Basically, yes. uh, yeah. But actually, to know the specific, exploit the specific databases,
Mhm.
application-oriented databases,
Yeah.
one need to be well versed with the structure of the database. Then he will be able to execute the injections properly.
Yes, that is true. But if you are familiar with the basics, of course, there are a lot of resources online that will help you to build upon that as well. But if you are familiar with basics and you have found an application which is vulnerable to this, then sooner or later you may be able to get whatever data you require from that application. If it is vulnerable, in that case, you'll be able to, uh, you know, get the data. Because see, even the people who attack websites, the attackers or hackers, they are extremely well versed in these things. They're not just trying it out with no prior experience or anything. They are well versed, and so they have complete knowledge of the database structure, of the commands that are used to query that database, and uh, such stuff. So they are well versed in that. So injection is at number one. Currently, this is the current version, so we are taking this as for right now. So injection is at number one. So the top risk is, you can say, injection right now. Not just SQL injection. You might have heard SQL injection a lot, but injection here means all kinds of injection. Broken authentication. So in case the authentication mechanism that you have implemented and the functions that are being used in your application to handle authentication, in case those are not properly implemented, in case there is some loophole there, then you have a case of broken authentication, which may allow attackers to get authenticated as some other legitimate user. Then you have sensitive data exposure. Now, web applications and websites handle a lot of sensitive data because a lot of work is being done online. Now, if you're handling such data, you need to, you need to make sure that your data is secure both while at rest as well as in transit.
So there is actually one common vulnerabilities seen in many web pages. Like if I open a web page in an Explorer tab,
Right.
log in it, and then using it, and then in another tab, I open that link again.
Mm.
It automatically takes the login. So is this a vulnerability?
The It's not a
Hello.
vulnerability, it's basically just session handling. See, what happens is when you log into a website, okay, you log into that website. So in most cases, what happens is the web server will
I log
send
into
you.
the website and
Yeah, what you're saying.
I log into the website.
Hmm.
Actually, if I log in to that website and then I copy that URL into another web page,
Hmm.
and see that it's again in login state, then that will be a vulnerability, no? Because I'm copying one session URL to another web page, and it's again showing me in login status.
But this is you are using the same browser on the same system. So
No,
see what
different
happened.
different browser only.
Different
It may be a
browser.
different. Yeah, it may be a different browser.
See, with a different browser, you shouldn't be logged in.
It can be possible.
It, in most cases, that is not what should happen. If it does happen, that's definitely a security issue, I would say. But within the same browser, what is happening is when you log in, the web server is going to store a cookie. The web server is going to send you a cookie, and your browser is going to store that. And whatever further request your browser makes to the web server, the cookie is going to be part of the request. So if you log in once, like if you log in one tab or in one window, you open another window, same browser, you open that website, then since your browser has that cookie stored, excuse me, now since your browser has that cookie stored, it is going to send that to all subsequent requests it makes to that website. And when that cookie expires, then the website may ask you to log in again. But of course, if you are able to, copy a URL and basically paste it in another browser, or let's say even another machine, like a virtual machine on your system, then access it, then that's definitely a vulnerability. But in most cases, I think that would be very rare. But normally, if you're just saying that you log into a website and you open another tab, you are still logged in, that's just expected functionality, because they need something, there needs to be a mechanism for session handling. If you force users to log in every time they open a new tab, that's also not going to be sitting well with people. Because even if you're closing a tab or if you're changing tabs, the cookie is still in your browser. It doesn't matter what tab you're using. It may be that you open up a different connection, but your session cookie is still the same. To the web server, you're still the same logged in user. Now, of course, if someone else is able to access your system, they can steal your cookies and log in as you. So that is something that needs to be taken care of. But otherwise, it's fine. Of course, different browsers and different systems, same URL should not work, but same browser is okay. And the difference should be if you're using normal mode versus incognito browsing, because those have different sessions. Okay. Hello, Rohit.
Hello, hi, yes, sir. Actually,
Okay.
voice was breaking. Yeah, sir.
Is it still breaking or is it fine now?
Now it is fine, sir.
Now fine. Okay. So, anything else? Any other question?
No, sir. It's okay, sir.
Okay. Okay. So we were talking about sensitive data exposure. So if you're handling any kind of sensitive data, you should make sure that that data remains confidential, both at rest as well as in transit. It should only be visible to the user who has access to the data. So that is one reason why HTTPS is so important. Having an SSL certificate for your website is so important. Even today, people think that, okay, my website does not need SSL certificates because I'm not really doing anything. I have a small website. It's a static website. It's the same for everyone. There's no like account system, or there's no dynamic content generated for different people. So I can just go on without an SSL certificate. Now that's not just an issue of sensitive data exposure, but that puts the visitors of your website at a much greater risk. Then you have XML external entities, or XXE. So older or poorly configured XML processors evaluate external entity references within the documents, and this may be used to execute certain commands and get access to some sensitive data within that server. Then you have broken access control. So if you don't have proper restrictions on what actions users should be able to take, like let's say if I'm logged in and I'm viewing my profile, I'm changing some settings, then I should only be able to change my settings. I should not be able to change someone else's settings, or I should not be able to see confidential data related to someone else's profile. If I'm able to do that, then that is a case of broken access control. Security misconfiguration. So, I mean, this is a little self-explanatory that if you don't configure your systems properly, if you don't configure what HTTP responses you are giving, what your headers are saying, if you don't have proper configuration to display errors in a proper way to the users, then all of that would come under security misconfiguration. The error messages part is, let's say, user tries to access some resource on your website, and due to an error within the website, they are not able to access it. But a proper error handling mechanism would be to display to the user that there is an internal server error. So something along the lines of an HTTP error code 500, rather than showing the user the exact issue that's happening. That okay, the entire, if you're showing them the entire stack trace, that okay, this is the error that happened, this is the application, this is the line, this is the code that was you know producing the error. You should not be showing this kind of sensitive details about your server side technology to a user, that an attacker could use misuse this information if that is the case. Then you have cross-site scripting or XSS. Now again, XSS is when there is no proper validation for input, and that allows an attacker to create HTML or JavaScript code and execute it within the browser. So within the victim's browser actually, and that may lead to them hijacking user sessions or defacing websites, getting more information from users. Now the next thing is insecure deserialization. Now serialization and deserialization are concepts in how do I explain this? Okay, the best way to say it would be is the process of converting a data structure on an object into the kind of format which can be transmitted. So when data is being transmitted from a web server to another device, to a client device, let's say from server to a client, then it needs to be deserialized in order to convert it to a transmittable form. So if this is not done properly, this could also lead to lots of different kinds of attacks. Then you have using components with known vulnerabilities. Now, most modern web development includes using a lot of publicly available frameworks and libraries that you can get online. But the issue with that is, if there is a vulnerability within the framework or the library that you're using, then your website also becomes vulnerable to a lot of malicious stuff if you are using that library or that framework as part of your stack. So even if on your end you have taken a lot of care and paid attention to security, but if there is a framework or there is a component in your website which is having some kind of vulnerability, then your website may be vulnerable to those issues as well. Insufficient logging and monitoring. So now in any incident, in any cybersecurity incident, the best way to figure out what went wrong and where it went wrong, how it went wrong, is to look through logs, to go through the logs and analyze step by step what happened and how the attack came to be. But if you don't have proper logging mechanisms, if you are not having, sufficient logging and monitoring systems, then in case an event happens, in case an attack happens, you will be at a loss to figure out, you know, like what exactly the issue was and how to remedy it. And take a look at this line. Most breach studies show that time to detect a breach is over 200 days, typically detected by external parties rather than internal processes or monitoring. This is because there is no sufficient logging process. Now, of course, the more logging you keep, the more monitoring you enable on your servers and on your system, that will incur a little more expenditure, but eventually in the long run, it will make your systems that much safer. But of course, companies tend to ignore this. So that is why, just think about it. It takes over 200 days, which is more than 6 months on average, before a data breach is detected. And this is very much true in today's date. The average time for detection is more than 6 months, because logging, monitoring, incident response is something that a lot of companies pay very little attention to even today, when cyber attacks are so widespread. So that's why that has also been included in this list, because that is a serious issue. So this is the OWASP top 10, and I mentioned this here because you should be aware of these things. And this list, again, like I mentioned, it keeps changing, it keeps updating. So every few years they come up with this list. I think before 2017, the last list came out in 2013. Now it's not fixed, like there's going to be a 4-year gap, but whenever they think that the list needs updating, or there has been a significant change in the kind of security risk between now and when the last list came out, then they come up with another version of this. So now, uh, this chapter I'm mostly going to go through as a practical chapter. So for that, we'll be working using DVWA. DVWA. So this is, if you go to this web page, it's basically a description of what DVWA is. It's a web application that is DAM vulnerable. So the name is DAM vulnerable web app, and its main goals are to be an aid for security professionals to test their skills and tools in a legal environment. So you can use this for practice, for learning, because of course no one is going to give you permission to use their website for testing just like that, just for practice. So we use this, and you can find it on GitHub. So this is the link, GitHub DG Ninja DVWA. I'll also post this in the chat so you can find it easily. Now you will have to set this up on your system, and although I will be also sharing a link for how you can do that. Now the thing is, you can install it on either Windows or Linux. I would recommend Linux, because even I myself have installed it on the Linux system, and you can access this either from your device on which it's hosted, either from that device itself or from another VM or from your host system. So this is the link where you can get DVWA from. Now they've also given links to installation videos for Ubuntu. Let's say I can click on this link. This is going to go through the whole process of how to do that. There's also another link that I can give you. This is the link. So follow the instructions here and set up DVW in your system, because we are going to need that to continue with our further lessons, with our further classes. So try installing that. If you have any issues, if you run into any difficulties with the process, we can of course discuss it in class. But if you are able to install it by yourself, of course that's well and good. If not, don't worry, you can iron out any issues in the next session. Okay, so do this, keep this in mind that you need to have this installed. Don't forget. Now, any questions regarding DVWA? I mean, of course, we'll start studying it. We'll start seeing the different vulnerabilities and how to exploit those starting from the next session onwards. And do you have any questions regarding DVWA itself? Like, if you have any doubts regarding what this is? No? Okay. So DVW, it's basically a web application that will be hosting locally on our own systems. So it's the process. It should not take more than like 15 minutes to set it up. If there's any errors, any issues, then the DVW page itself mentions a lot of fixes and a lot of things that do. And okay, we talked about OWASP top 10. There is also another list, 24, 25.
Sir, if we install this DWA, then this window file will not means like interfere in it, no?
What will not interfere?
Windows firewall. If we install it in Windows system.
Firewall? No. DVWA, and I mean, the firewall should not interfere with this. It's just you are basically, what you're doing is you're running a web server on your system and you're hosting this website or web application on it. That's all you're doing. Firewall should not
Okay.
interfere with this.
So if it is using any ports that are restricted in the Windows firewall rules list, then it may can cause some issues.
The only port it will use is port 80, because HTTP by default it uses port 80, so that's what this is going to be using. And I don't think you will have that blocked by default in your firewall, but if it is, then just change that setting. But I didn't run into any issues when I tried it on Windows. I don't have it currently set up on Windows. I just use on Linux for now, but it should not give you any issues. It's just you're hosting a simple web application.
Okay, sir.
Okay, it should not give you a lot of issues or anything. So, like we talked about OWASP top 10, there is also something known as SANS top 25. So this is top 25 software errors, and you can also go through this list. This is the website sans.org. They also have a lot of different certifications to take, but of course, uh, those are a little advanced. They have a lot of webinars from time to time which you can attend. Just create an account and they'll subscribe to the newsletter, and you'll get a lot of details about any webinars or events that you can attend.
So there is one more organization that conducts webinar frequently. It's called Cyber Defense.
Yeah, cyber defense, we do that. Actually, there are a lot of organizations, there are a lot of places which keep conducting seminars and stuff. So go with what you think is the best. What like you know, in some place you'll find that okay, the teaching methods or the topics that they cover are more relevant to you, or you like their methods more. Then you use that.
Some topics are a bit advanced. Some topics are intermediate level,
Right.
but they use basically recent topics like very current cybersecurity issues going on in industry.
Right.
So they address only those parts.
Because that is what is most relevant to people who are in the industry. If of course, if you are looking to enter into it, then those webinars will give you some information, but some topics they cover will be slightly advanced. But yeah, there are a lot of such good organizations. Even if you go to Twitter and follow people from the InfoSec community, you'll find that it's a very nice community. People share a lot of resources and stuff.
This one more popular webinar holders name is Dark Reading. They also time to time organize webinars, different cybersecurity topics.
Different topics. Okay. Free webinars maybe, or
Free webinars, only free webinars.
because free is what is good. A lot of sites have events, but they have to pay
Even
extra.
they like for encouraging the participation, even they give away the prizes. So
Exactly.
lastly, this cyber defense I have attended, they have given me some $100 in prize in like for participation encouragement.
That's nice. And of course, rewards are good if you're getting prizes to encourage participation. That's definitely good. But the main, motivation should always be to learn.
Yes, motivation is like only for topics.
Yeah, main motivation should always be that. Of course, rewards are always good. No one is going to say no to that. But okay, so just like the OWASP top 10, there's also the SANS top 25 most dangerous software errors. This is not just for websites, but in general, software applications. So you can find this on the sans.org website, top 25 software errors. Now talking about, if I talk about DVWA, I think that website that we saw, it used to be a little more detailed as far as I remember. Yeah, okay. There is also a wiki that you can access, but unfortunately, they haven't updated it. There used to be some content here, but they removed it recently. So we will be going through this DVW application, and it has a list of vulnerabilities that we'll be seeing, like what those vulnerabilities are, and they've also shown you different levels of security. So low level security, medium level, high level, all that kind of stuff is also present. And come to think of it, this is another application, or this is another avenue where you can also practice your scanning. So that is also something you can do here. If you're running DVWA, Like let's say I'm running DVW in my Linux system, in my virtual machine. So I can run scans either from Linux itself, or I can run scans from my Windows system itself. So that is also
Therefore, we
something.
can practice Nmap scans.
Yes, Nmap scans you can also practice. So that is also something that is possible with DVW and not just the vulnerabilities themselves. And since you will be hosting this locally on your own system, you can do whatever you want with it. So get this set up by the next session tomorrow. If you run into any issues, no worries. We'll sort them out in the next session, but try to do this today.
Tomorrow, 11 a.m. I think, yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Okay, sir.
So try to do this, and in case of any issues, we'll of course sort them out in the next session. And after that, we can start working on the different vulnerabilities present in DVWA and see how we can exploit those. Any questions? Anything else that you might want to ask?
No, sir.
No, sir.
So try to get this done by tomorrow. Okay, remember to do that. Don't forget.
Okay, sir.
So I don't have anything else to teach for the rest of the session. And if you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we can end it here.